see you now, but but I'm glad to see your little group of people. The Lifesaving Station in Fenwick Island is what I'm going to be talking about tonight. It's kind of a special place for me because my grandfather worked there. And my first aunt, the oldest aunt of the three children, was born in one of the little cottages adjacent to the Fenwick Island Lifesaving Station. So, special place for me. In 1880, the Lifesaving Station was at its heyday when shipping had been growing on the coast of the nation, especially the Atlantic shore, and so had the number of shipwrecks with the consequent loss of life and property. The need for this service was recognized as early as 1848, but not until 1871 did there become an organized, coherent system. The life-saving service stepped forward when the lighthouse and the lightship failed. So there was a lightship in Fenwick Island, which we are familiar with, and if you know the story, it is now over at the museum in the Baltimore Harbor, and it says Chesapeake on it, so it used to be Fenwick. The life-saving station stepped forward when the lighthouse and the lightship system failed. A light in fog or stormy weather would not serve as a reliable warning. In a storm, a ship in distress would either be driven toward shore before the storm, or would head toward shore to avoid sinking in deep water. But launching a lifeboat from a listing wreck and then guiding the small craft through rolling breakers and shallow waters was nearly impossible. Thus, the life-saving station was born. Training was completed by officers of the Revenue Marine. The Fenwick Island Lighthouse was first lit in August of 1859. In spite of this, the waters around Delaware were extremely dangerous, with many eroding shoals close to shore. It was on these shoals that many ships floundered and sank. In 1871, the Life-Saving State Service was created around the country, and commissioned life-saving stations were built in Delaware at approximately every 5-mile interval. At Lewis, Cape Henlopen, Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach, Indian River, Bethany Beach, and Fenwick Island. The Fenwick Station was built in 1891, approximately where the Chamber of Commerce is now, or where the State Park is, where that place where the bathrooms are. In that area. Yeah. The Fenwick Station was, I said that. It was operated by the U.S. Life-Saving Service until 1915, when the Coast Guard took over operations. This station, 144, continued operations in Fenwick until 1936. In 1936, there was a horrendous storm, and I assume at that point there was some damage to the life-saving station, and that was probably why it was no longer in use. At the time of the decommissioning, the crew included, and I'll give you names and they'll sound familiar to you, even if you don't know any of them: Amos Hudson, Carl Lee Kites, Ray Coffin, Asher Bunting, Harry Derrickson, Jack Pusey, and Lev Day. So all of those names are still around. A unique feature were the cottages built behind the station. These were for any family members who wished to be with their spouse, and my grandparents' first child, Sadie, was born in one of these cottages. But that was very unusual, and all the other ones that I researched did not have these little cottages, so that was kind of a unique part of this life-saving station. In the early 1900s, the head lifesaver, or the keeper, was appointed, and then he would hire others from the community who knew the waters to act as surfmen. The keeper would serve year-round, but the rest of the crew would man their posts between September and May so they could fish and attend their farms. While on duty, the crew, who worked in 4-hour shifts around the clock, patrolled the beach looking for ships in peril. Now, I have a map which nobody can see probably, but just to show you how many there were. There was one in Cape May, of course. There was one in Lewis, one in Rehoboth, one in Indian River Inlet, which of course is still there, one in Bethany Beach, one in Fenwick Island, one in Ocean City, all the way down to Norfolk. They were spaced about every 5 miles. 2 surfmen would patrol, with one walking north, the other one south. They would walk until they met another surfman from the station above or below, Bethany above and Ocean City below, and exchanged surfman checks, badges, or keys, and then returned to their stations with proof that the watch was conducted. If you know that on the way to the Indian River Bridge, there's a place called Key Box Road. Well, that would have been where they exchanged that key. You would have put your key into the box that was located there. This was done both day and night. Daily drills included use of the surf boat. Each man must drag 180 pounds through the soft sand. Wig-wag training, which is a semaphore system with flags, and first aid training, including how to perform the resuscitation of the apparently drowned. That's what we call it. Which involved placing a victim face down and pulling back on his elbows in intervals. But face down, I'm picturing that, and pulling back on his elbows. The Fenwick keepers were Stratton Schellinger, John Long, John Pruitt, John Hudson. The names of the crews were John Long, Buck Derrickson, George Grice, who is also a name that's around still, John Grice, and George and John were probably cousins or brothers, John Burbage, James Evans, my grandfather, Cass Keene, Asher Tingle, Owen Derrickson, John Pruitt, and Charlie Gregg. So they had quite a crew. Each day a drill was performed. On Monday, they practiced the beach apparatus drill and made sure all their gear was in working condition and safe to use. On Tuesday, surfmen would practice their rescue boat drills. They would row into the surf, capsize their boat, then right it up and start again. On Wednesday, surfmen would practice signal drills such as semaphore and wigwag, which were forms of communication with flags. On Thursday, surfmen would repeat the beach apparatus drill and any other Monday duties. On Friday, surfmen trained in restoring the apparently drowned, which was like an early form of CPR. Saturday, surfmen performed maintenance and chores like cleaning the station and fixing up the grounds. And on Sunday, they had the day off. They could go into town, which in this case was quite a distance and not easy to get to, or just relax. Regular patrols still occurred at night. Rescue was by means of the surf boat, and if you've been to the Indian River Lifesaving Station, there is a surf boat there in the garage. The breaches bury, the Lyle gun, and resuscitation. Overall, statistics from Long Island and New Jersey showed life-saving stations resulted in a reduction in loss of life of about 87%. Incidentally, the Lyle gun is a small portable cannon that is powered by special gunpowder that was made by DuPont. Yeah. Shipwrecks were frequent, with ships floundering on the shoals and sandbars off the Fenwick coast. That was primarily the problem with Fenwick, was that there was a lot of shoals and it was not obvious. They were all warned about it, but they still got in too close. The few local inhabitants scavenged and lived off of the treasures that were washed ashore. When a surfboat rescue was not an option, during a shipwreck, the keeper quickly assessed the situation and decided what strategies would be employed, weighing the weather, the location, the number of people. Since time was of the essence, and if the surf was pounding, the keeper would order his crew to man the beach cart for the breeches buoy rescue. Now, are y'all familiar with what a breeches buoy is? Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. The cart would be painstakingly pulled through soft, sopping sand to the edge of the surf. Then, the surfmen sprang into action. Surfmen numbers 5, 6, and 7 would dig a hole 2 feet down to be able to bury the wooden anchor. Numbers 2 and 3 would remove the shot line from the cart, while surfman number 1 and the keeper positioned the Lyle gun. In a matter of a few minutes, the 17-pound projectile with the shot line attached was sent hurtling toward the shipwreck, so that's the Lyle gun. It would have been able to reach the ship. The sailors on the floundering ship would secure the line that was on their end and follow the instructions that were sent out on a tally board. Now, I don't know how the tally board got there, but that kind of thought that was clever. One by one, the sailors climbed into the breeches buoy and were sent to shore. Now, how did they determine? They had a pulley.
So it would be like a clothesline.
Yes, yes.
Oh my gosh.
And one by one, can you imagine if you were the last one to leave, you know, whether or not you would make it or not? A list of actual life-saving efforts in Fenwick does not exist that I know of, but in 1900, the SS Sutton crew, lost in January in fall, was saved by a revenue cutter, the Onondaga. So they did not need the help of the life-saving station, but they were too close to shore, and it was very difficult for any of the ships not to stay close to shore. There was the Fenwick Island Lighthouse kind of almost urging them to come closer to shore, and yet that was a mistake. They should not have done that. The sailors on the floundering ship would secure the line. We already said that. A list of actual life-saving efforts in Fenwick does not exist. There is the one from the Sutton. Remember this? There is a little cup, and then there are at least two or three trunks that are around that have the USS Sutton on them. So after it was destroyed, all the people did live, but after it was destroyed, some of the things washed ashore, and my grandfather was able to get them. There's also an article here in the New York Times in 1900, Lewis, Delaware, January 21st, and it tells the story of the Sutton coming ashore. But they made the New York Times. I thought that was pretty impressive.
Pretty amazing.
In 1915, the life-saving station was converted to Coast Guard Station number 144, continuing operations until 1936. At the time of decommissioning, the crew included Amos Hudson, Curl Lee Kites, Ray Coffin, Asher Bunting, Harry Garrickson, Jack Pusey, and that's because of the transition to the Coast Guard. The surfmen received a pension when they retired, and I actually have a letter that my grandfather got from the government saying that he was entitled to a pension. Some of the existing cottages at that time were moved to downtown Fenwick and were sold or rented out. So none of them are left at this point, we decided, but I thought that was kind of neat. Now, famous Walt Whitman wrote a poem which I thought was appropriate. Patrolling the ocean at Fenwick Island. Wild, wild the storm and the sea high running, steady the roar of the gale with incessant undertone muttering. Shouts of demoniac laughter, fitfully piercing and pealing. Waves, air, midnight, their savage trinity lashing. Out of the shadows there, milk-white cones careering. On beach, slush and sand, spurts of snow fierce slanting, where through the murk the easterly death wind breasting. Through cutting swirl and spray, watch and firm advancing. That in the distance, is that a wreck? Is the red signal flaring? Slush and sand of the beach, tireless till daylight wending. Steadily, slowly, through hoarse roar never remitting. Along the midnight edge by those white cones careering. A group of dim, weird forms struggling, the night confronting. That savage trinity warily watching. That was overly dramatic, but it really does tell the story. Surfing saved over 7,500 shipwrecked people along the eastern shore of Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. So obviously they had an extensive, very appropriately important job. Now I have some things to show you. I found, just today I found this. The following persons were visiting James M. Evans at the Fenwick Island Lighthouse on August the 13th, 1895.
Wow.
And they had to sign in. E.B. Townsend, Annie West, that was his sister-in-law. Eva West, another sister-in-law. It's just kind of cute though that they all had to sign in.
When you say 7,500 in Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, are you talking about Delmarva Peninsula or the extended state of Virginia also?
That I don't know, they just called it the Delmarva Peninsula.
I've always read it's the Delmarva Peninsula
Okay.
referring to.
Now, these are, my grandfather was number 2. So we said the keeper did not have a number. It was a number 1, and then my grandfather was number too, so he did have an important job, with the, service. And this one, I think, just showed that he was a life-saving, I don't know anything about this one, but I've got them both. And they're rather worn, but they're authentic. And also, this is another little booklet that I have. He told, in 1908, he talks about the people, how much they got paid. The Captain Pruitt got $1.26.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Grice got $7.52. I don't know why he got more. Mr. Evans, that would be my grandfather, got $7.72. Mr. Wilgus, we all know that name, got $7.42. Mr. Keene, $6.92. Mr. Derrickson, $6.87. And Sam P. got $7.02. How they figured that one out, I don't know. If they had hourly wages or whatever, but
Is that like
obviously
a weekly wage?
it was billed for the August of 1908. So I think it was for the whole
For the
month.
That's probably based on.
Pretty
Pretty
good
good
money.
money in 1901.
Yeah.
A dollar sure did go for then.
Yeah, that's true. There was a bill for September that was in 1908, and then those bills were 53 cents, 50 cents. Mr. Pruitt got paid. Mr. Evans got $5.67 that month. But each one of them are listed in here, and it goes on and on and on and on for quite a few times. And we did have the same thing in the store here. People would come to the store and they'd want to buy something, but they didn't have the money, so they bartered with a chicken or with something that they had, some corn that they had grown. And then they kept track of it so that they could pay off their bill when it was time. So it's the same idea as that. And this was the article that was in the New York Times. I was pretty impressed that it made the New York Times. Yeah. But I guess the Lifesaving Station had some clout. There's a wonderful book about Fenwick Island that was written by Kimberly, and it has, right in the very beginning, it has an article about the Lifesaving Station with some pictures. And we will have some pictures to show you in a minute. These are my favorite books here. This was one from an 1880 Lifesaving Station, and that's where I got the Walt Whitman poem. It really glorifies it. It makes it seem like it was really an important part, which I think it was, of the lifetime. And then for Christmas, I got this cute little book from Rouseabout Books called Ben and the Brass Check, and that's about Lewis, but it had a lot of important things in it, and it's a children's book. It's really cute. And then finally, these are sold over at the Lifesaving Station in Indian River, The Journey Along the Sands, and that actually talks about some of the local people who were involved in the Mr. Washington Vickers was the person who was in charge, the keeper, and he must have, they walked to Lewis.
2.5 miles and then back 2.5 miles every 4 hours.
Exactly, and they exchanged keys.
And
That's
then have to go back.
Mhm.
5 miles a day. I mean, how many?
But if there was a disaster in Lewis, they would walk to Lewis.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
If there was a disaster in Ocean City, they'd walk to Ocean City and vice versa. So this book really does point that out. So that's one of the,
Okay.
oh,
Do you mind sharing with everyone the wonderful things your grandfather made that now are at the Indian River Lifesaving Station? The gifts you
Oh,
gave
yeah.
them? They're cool.
yeah. Yeah, they had a dinner one time and they wanted people to bring things if they had anything that had been made because they had some free time, let's face it. And when he carved things, so he made a little chest for Aunt Sadie, and then he made a little table for her to match it, and he made a little, like a little cupboard that was about so tall. And all of those are over at the Coastal Towns Museum.
And the bones, what do you call that work on the bones that they did?
Scrimshaw?
Yeah, scrimshaw, yeah, all of that.
Yeah, as exciting as it was also boring for them. So they all had some hobbies that they were able to continue.
Your turn. So we'll just like that.
So let's take a
Right
look
on
at
the
this and
screen.
we'll see some of the
Okay.
things. This would have been the boat that they were talking about, that was so heavy, and it was trying to drag it across wet sand. It's just amazing. Mhm. And here, isn't this different than what you expect from any life-saving station? But here's the life-saving station, and there are the cottages. And this cottage, one of these cottages was where my aunt was born. It just fascinates me. There were two more children, my father and another daughter. They had, there's all three children 7 years apart. So, and you can read into that if you'd like. but this was one of the houses, and when it was decommissioned, it was moved over to Kings Avenue.
King Street, it was,
King
my
Street.
grandfather and grandmother rented it
Right.
in the summer to people.
Now, was it actually two different little?
No, it was the barracks, and they auctioned them off in 1936, and Papa went over there and bought one.
So, the life-saving, that's the same picture, but there's a better picture of showing how much difficulty, and also the way they're dressed, it's kind of. This was my grandfather right here. And all those other names that we mentioned earlier, here he is, he's always hugging people. When I was a kid, he was 95 years old when he died, and when I was a kid, he was probably like 90 when I was born. He was blind, so he never saw me, but he always wanted to know what I looked like. That's my memory of him. So here's the breeches buoy, we were talking about that. So they actually, one person at a time, that's the inconvenient part about it, because somebody had to decide who was gonna go first, and whether they would all make it. But yes, it goes out to the boat, one person gets in it, and then they bring him in, another goes out to the boat, and another person gets in. This I found in the garage when we were straightening things up. It's called a taffrail log. It measures the speed of a boat. And I think it's a very rare find.
Question, did they ever think of using more than one pulley at the same time?
I guess not. Probably they were hard to come by, I don't know. This is in the museum, it's just a pretty little lamp, but this was a foghorn. And when we first got this foghorn, you pumped it and it actually did make a sound. Doesn't anymore. Here's that article from the New York Times about the ship. Now the ship looked like this, beautiful ship. And then when it went on the shoals, it looked like that. So you can see it was totally destroyed. It was called the SS Sutton. That was that little jar that I showed y'all. Oh, it's like a little cotton one. And then my grandfather brought in at least two of them, because my brother has one and then there's this one. It's really neat. It's got a drawer on the bottom, and then you can lift up this, and there's a big container of things. And my aunt saved deeds. I have deeds from 1700, and they were found in this container. So yeah, this is funny too. Every time he had his picture taken, he always wore his uniform. If it was in the backyard, if it was at the beach, whatever. So here he is with my grandmother, as it says, 1917. There's my father, and that was the one that was born at the beach, and that was his sister that was born in Ocean View, and that was her, my grandmother's sister. No, that's my grandmother. Okay, James Evans with family, and her name was Mary. They called her Mame. And this one is just a lovely picture, and that was before. That's my grandmother there, and that is a picture of a sister, and then my grandfather and Aunt Sadie. So that was when they were living there. But just the way they're dressed and all.
And you can see on the left picture, isn't that the
Wood house.
house right over there?
Right.
In the wood house.
That Marcia's son renovated. And Donna Elias did that in 1997. And I assume she did it from a picture that's similar to what we just saw. I wanna play trivia with you, because we're talking about the 250th anniversary, and what was the first state? What was it?
Delaware.
Delaware. So we really deserve a special spot in the celebration, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know that we'll get it, but we deserve it. So I'm gonna ask you some questions, and you can just shout out the answers, all of you, at one time. The lady who started a business in Ocean View and became wealthy and famous and now represents $1 billion industry was?
Cecil Steele.
Cecil Steele. A wealthy benefactor who built schools in Delaware in the 1920s.
P.S. DuPont.
Yes, DuPont. Country that sailed up the Delaware River and established a fort and a church still in use in Wilmington in the 1600s. The country. Sweden. Mhm. The type of cabin that would have been built in the aforesaid fort. What type
Log
of?
cabin.
A log cabin. She's sorry. Name of the ship, you probably know this too. Name of the ship the aforesaid country sailed across the Atlantic, and it comes to Lewis all the time. The Kalmar Nickel.
Kalmarnica?
Nickel.
Nickel.
N-Y-C-K-L. Nickel. Location of the Dutch village that was ambushed by local Native Americans.
Say what?
The location of the Dutch village that was ambushed.
Lewis.
Lewis, yes. The name of New York City when claimed by the Dutch.
Amsterdam.
New Amsterdam. Mhm. A Quaker refuge set up by this man.
William Penn.
Very good. The same man in question 8, William Penn, and a man from Maryland who disputed ownership of the lower county of Delaware.
Lord Baltimore, the Calvert family.
Yes, Charles Calvert, who was Lord Baltimore, and William Penn argued over our boundaries.
For over 100 years.
How the above dispute was resolved, and who were the surveyors?
Mason and Dixon.
What is the religious name for the pacifists who settled in Pennsylvania and Wilmington?
Quakers.
The Quakers. Obviously, she taught school.
Brandy line.
But it wasn't the Mason-Dixon line, it was a Trans-Peninsula, and it was
Oh,
John
but yeah,
Watson.
but wasn't there, Mason-Dixon also surveying in this area too?
They started in Delmar,
Yes, okay.
but
Went west from there.
4 years earlier, it was John Watson who did the Trans-Peninsular line, which runs from Fenwick to Delmar.
Delmar, okay.
But how was it settled? You said who did the survey, how was it settled? A duel?
No,
No.
it was settled in court in England.
Oh.
No, well, ironically, Lord Baltimore thought that he owned up to Cape Henlopen, but he thought Cape Henlopen was down in Fenwick Island. So
This guy
ironically,
had a bad map.
yes.
And when
We were
William
really
Penn's
lucky.
guy saw the map, he was like, we're good.
So just picture if we only had Delaware down to Cape Henlopen as it is today. Delaware would have been really tiny then. A small village on the Delaware River is called Kidd's Hummock, but was originally called Kidd's Hummock after what sailor?
Captain Kidd.
Billy the Kid, yeah. True or false? 800 acres in our county was owned by 2 brothers who bought it for 3 coats, 12 bottles of rum, and 4 handfuls of gunpowder.
True.
True. Should I say that again? 3 coats, 12 bottles of rum, and 4 handfuls of gunpowder.
They knew what was important.
They had a lot of foresight. The Brandywine River in Wilmington, originally called Willing Town, named after Thomas Willing, was used for what purposes? Say it. Oh, gunpowder. All right.
Gunpowder, cotton, mills.
Mills, right. Lots of mills on the Brandywine. What were 3 of the Indian tribes who had originally settled in this county?
Delaware.
Lenny Lenape, Delaware.
Assawoman.
Oh. Say them again, Assawoman.
Manicote and Lenape.
Manicote.
Lenape.
We
What?
don't know the names of the people who were directly on our coast. They died right away when first contact with Europeans because of disease. And even the Nanacoke, and they don't know the names of those folks either, because the Nanacokes were further down in the eastern shore of Virginia. And they moved up as all those people just died. And when I say disease, I mean, we talk about pandemic, it was
Right.
like, gee.
Because they had never had
Never
exposure.
had any.
It's like chickenpox.
And that information's lost forever.
This was a difficult one, but maybe somebody will know. What three Delawareans, don't answer, signed the Constitution?
Caesar Rock.
Caesar Romney,
Uh-huh.
John Dickinson.
Yeah. You should know, Marcia, because we went to the courthouse in Newcastle. Caesar Rodney, George Reed, and Thomas McCain.
Oh, George Reed, that's right.
Delaware's not so bad. Why are we called the first state? First to sign it, right. In the Revolutionary War, Delaware soldiers were called the
Fighting blue hens.
Fighting Blue Hens. The chickens were never beaten. The blue hens were never beaten. No, seriously. Our soldiers were never beaten when they went into battle.
Our Union soldiers.
Where was the only battle on Delaware soil for the Revolutionary War?
Hughes Bridge.
Cooch's Bridge. It's up on.
Up in Newcastle.
Near Newark, right.
Yep. Last
Delaware, wait, can answer this one. Delaware had the largest population of what animal?
Chickens.
Still do. $1 million.
Oh, because that one little mistake.
Here's one we were talking about the other day. Rapa is the largest manufacturer of apple. What is Delaware's nickname?
Diamond
The Diamond State.
Diamond?
And this is one you might not know. What president named it the Diamond State?
Somebody was drunk.
Thomas Jefferson. I thought that was kind of cool.
We don't know why. Do we know why?
I guess because it must have had some attributes worthwhile. What tree was
like a diamond.
Oh,
What
okay.
tree was used to create Christmas decor and became the state tree? It was a big business back in the day.
Trees.
Yes, it was.
What movie was filmed at St. Andrew's School in Middletown?
Dead Poets.
Really?
Dead Poets Societies. Robin Williams was the star, and I ran into him at the toy store before, while he was filming it. What is buried in Georgetown by politicians 2 days after the election? And what is that day called? Very good. Here's some, this one might be difficult. What famous reggae singer lived in Wilmington in the early 60s? Bob Marley.
Really?
Where is Delaware's Civil War prison?
For Delaware.
Fort Delaware, Peapatch Island, right?
Peapatch Island.
What is the location of the mortuary for the United States military? What is the name of the peninsula that a majority of Delaware sits?
Delmarva.
Good. What Super Bowl won MVP in 2013, a quarterback for the Ravens and a vacationer in Bethany Beach? Flacco.
Lockout.
Joe Flacco. What thermoplastic material was first manufactured in Seaford, invented by Wallace Carruthers? What beach is named, two beaches are named after a biblical name? Over 300,000 companies are incorporated in Delaware. This one's really hard, but it's a friend of mine's uncle, so I haven't included it. The first Delawarean, a non-player, to be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. His name is Bill McGowan, and he was an umpire. I think that's cool.
I had baseball signed by him.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Jeez.
Now
I
he's
didn't know what he did.
Now you do. This is because I was the historian at the Playhouse Theater when I worked there. In 1928, what up-and-coming, very famous actress played at the Playhouse Theater? 1928.
Hepburn.
Catherine Hepburn. Yeah. Isn't that cool? There were a lot of people that played there, but that was, and she wasn't even in the main part of the booklet. She was just sort of mentioned in the back, because she was nobody at that point.
I can answer you one. What technology was invented in 1936 that led to the decommissioning of all the life-saving stations?
Battery
Telegraph?
operated one.
Radar.
Oh.
So then boats had that and could find the shoals.
Now, the Fenwick Island Life Saving Station just ended in 1936. Was that more because of the storm?
No, that was all of them. They all
Oh, they all
went. They all decommissioned.
Okay.
Was that because of the radar?
Because of radar, because they said they had better technology. I mean, you know, it was Coast Guard by then, so then they had other Coast Guard stations, and they had, you know, they had a lot going on, thinking about the war coming up and all that kind of stuff going on. But it was radar that then allowed ships to actually see the shoals before they plowed into them.
And Fenwick shoals, I mean, I can't say that enough, that Fenwick shoals were definitely a danger to shippers.
Well, you know, a ship out in a northeast storm, which is our worst weather, they couldn't avoid the shoals, it just pushed them that way.
Yeah.
They couldn't stay offshore enough, and they just kept coming closer and closer, and ran aground, and then the waves just beat them to death.
There was one group of sailors that climbed to the tops of their sails, hoping that they could get saved, and they were saved. But
I wonder how it changed when the life-saving service became Coast Guard. Was it the end of the life-saving stations at that point?
no,
that
Coast
was
Guard just took over. It
1950.
was a change in name only?
No, it was the joining of the cutter service, which were the boats. This is 1915, out in the water, so you got the little boats doing their thing. And then you had all these life-saving stations on land doing their things with the lighthouses. And so they joined them together, and called it the Coast Guard.
yeah, it became much more efficient at that point. So.
More professional.
Yeah.
More training.
Any other questions or?
I just can't imagine middle of the winter, living in a little house, how cold it would be, and
Walking those beaches.
and like Bob said, in the middle of a nor'easter, and oh my gosh, those people.
For 5 miles.
Yeah, I
In
mean,
4
those
hours
were
they have
some
to do
tough
5
dudes.
miles.
Right.
really tough dudes.
That's
On the
amazing.
sand.
Yeah.
And the
Wet sand.
the uniforms were all wool, which sounds like it's warm, but.
It's not.
And can you
Not in
imagine
that
going in the
kind of
water with that big old wool uniform
They're
on?
wet. Once they get
Right,
wet.
once they get wet, you fall down.
Did most of them have other occupations? Like, did they do this part-time? Like your grandfather, wasn't he like a farmer?
Most
As
of
well?
them were farmers, if they
Okay.
weren't, the only one who stayed there year-round was the keeper.
Okay.
Everybody else left in May and came back in October, and that gave them time to
Oh,
do
okay.
their farmers.
Farming
Like a
or,
school teacher.
wow, pretty interesting.
And the storms were less serious.
Yeah. But I know he still would go if there was a storm, you know, he'd get the horse and buggy and he'd go down to help out. But he was close by. There's a story that Wanda Willie told when she gave her talk about her grandfather was at the Indian River Life Saving Station. And her grandmother would go and visit him every Sunday or whatever. And she'd have a big container and she'd put milk in it. By the time she got down there, it was butter.
That sounds like Wanda.
Station on Fifth Street in Bethany, is that the life-saving station?
I don't know for sure. I know that's
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Nancy, the Hickmans, Ray and Sally Hickman. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's part, you know,
Right, exactly.
it totally doesn't look like a station.
No, it
But
doesn't.
it
Right.
does have a tower.
Nancy confirmed that with me
Oh,
one time.
What
Yeah.
street?
Fifth Street.
On the left, as you go down south.
East-west.
And there were several
Bethany
in Ocean
Beach.
City, and of
Up
course,
north,
they did
it's
save
north.
one in Ocean City, which is on the boardwalk now. They
I
moved
only know
that
of
from
a north.
70th Street
I didn't
to
know there was a
Oh,
Fifth
okay.
Street.
boardwalk, and that's
There's
an
a Fifth
original
Street
What is
south.
it, the
Lifesaving.
museum?
It's the
That's a
Ocean City
museum.
Museum, right at the end of the boardwalk.
Oh, at the end of the boardwalk.
At the end of the boardwalk, yeah, and that's an original building too.
So do we wanna do a raffle?
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody else is interested.